Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm going to show you how to crochet this sunflower. So we're going to be making the one on the left, but as you can see I've made different versions and these are from my pattern which is available on my Etsy shop. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in those. If you've never crocheted before, check out my videos about how to do single crochet and how to crochet in the round. So you're going to need double knit yarn in all of these colours shown. You'll need a 3mm crochet hook, some scissors, a yarn needle, a couple of stitch markers, some pins to help with sewing, some pink embroidery thread for the mouth, a tape measure, and a small amount of stuffing. Then you're going to need 2mm aluminium armature wire, so you can just buy it online. You'll need some pliers with a wire cutter, so this is the bit that cuts the wire here. And you'll need some plastic pellets. So I just got these online as well. So we're going to start with the pot in orange. So we're going to make a magic ring. And just take that short tail out and put it by the side. And then do the single crochet underneath both of those strands. So we're going to do 6 single crochet in the magic ring. So count the V's to count your stitches. And then pull tight on that short tail to close the magic ring. Put the marker in this stitch here. Round 2, we're going to do an increase in every stitch. So an increase is 2 single crochet in 1 stitch, and we'll have 12 stitches at the end of the round. So I'm going to show you this round in full and then the next round as well. But you can pause the video anytime you need to. And then after that, I'm just going to show you the first set of each round. So take the marker out and do your last increase. And you can count your stitches if you need to, like this. Put the marker back in the last stitch you did. Round 3, we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch, and we're going to do that 6 times so that we have 18 stitches at the end of the round. So I'm just going to speed up the rest of the round just to show you, but you can pause the video. So take the marker out and do the last increase. So we're just going to be increasing evenly in sixes. So this is how you count your rounds. Marker goes back in. Round 4, we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches, then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch, and we're going to do that 6 times, and we'll have 24 stitches at the end of the round. So I'll just show you the first set, and then you can pause the video and meet me back. Round 5, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. We're going to do that 6 times, and we'll have 30 stitches at the end of the round. Round 6, we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, then we're going to increase in the next stitch. We'll do that 6 times, and we'll have 36 stitches at the end of the round. Round 7, we're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches, then we're going to increase in the next stitch. We'll do that 6 times, and we'll have 42 stitches at the end of the round. Round 8, we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches, then we're going to increase in the next stitch. We do that 6 times, and we'll have 48 stitches at the end of the round. Round 9, we're going to single crochet in the next 7 stitches, then we're going to increase in the next stitch. We'll do that 6 times, and we'll have 54 stitches at the end of the round. And this is the last round of increasing, so this is as wide as it's going to get. Okay, so I've done all those rounds, and you can count your rounds like this if you need to. Round 10, we're going to be working in the back loops only. So this is the front loop because it's closest to you, and this is the back loop because it's furthest away from you. So we're going to be working in these loops, and we're going to just do a single crochet in every stitch, so maintaining 54 stitches. So I will just show you a bit of this round. And what this does is it makes the crochet change direction, so that we'll have the flat base and then we'll have the sides going up, which is what we're starting to do now. And you can see those front loops are just left remaining. And when you get to the stitch marker, you just take the marker out as normal and do the last back loop only stitch in that stitch. So marker goes back in, and you can see that we've got a flat base, and then we've got the first round of the side. So now we're just going to be working rounds of single crochet, and we're going to be working in both loops again. So I'll just show you the start of this round just so that you can see what it looks like, and then I'm going to leave the instructions on the screen. So rounds 11 to 21, that's 11 rounds. We're going to single crochet in every stitch, maintaining 54 stitches. Okay, so I've done all of those rounds now, and you can count your rounds. So this is the back loop only round, and then you should have 11 rounds after that. And now to finish off, we're going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch, just to make it less of a step and more of a slope. So push the hook in, yarn over and pull through, and then pull that loop through the first loop on the hook. Now we're going to fasten off, leaving a little bit of a tail to weave in, so about this long. And then we're going to thread that tail onto our needle and weave it into the back of the stitches on the inside of the pot. So just go in the opposite direction on that last round. Go for about 5 or 6 loops and pull through. And then we're going to go down to the next round below that and go in the opposite direction just to make it more secure. And then cut that tail close to the edge of the work, and that's the pot finished. So to make the middle of the sunflower, it's exactly the same as what we've just done, except in brown, and we're only going to go up to 48 stitches. So I've left the instructions on the screen, and you can meet me back when you've done that. Okay, so I've done those rounds. I'm just counting. Round 9, we're going to single crochet in every stitch, and then we're going to change to green as we finish that last single crochet. So I'm going to speed it up just to show you, and then I'm going to show you how to change colour. So we've got to the last stitch, we take out the marker, push the hook in the stitch, yarn over and pull through, but don't finish that single crochet in brown. Take the green and pull through a loop like this. So pull through both of those loops on the hook, and that has completed that single crochet in brown and changed to green, so that the future stitches will be in green. So now you can cut that brown tail the same length as that short green one, because we don't need that anymore. And we're going to tie those together in a minute. So round 10, we're going to be working back loops only, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch. So again, that's the front loop, it's closest to you. This is the back loop, it's furthest away. So we're going to single crochet in every stitch, just maintaining 48 stitches. And again, we're doing this because we want to change direction to do the back of the sunflower. So once you've done your first green stitch, then you can take your hook out and tie those tails together. because we know that the first green stitch is more secure. So just tie it in a double knot. So you can pause the video and meet me back when you've done that round. Okay, so I've got one brown stitch remaining, so I'm just going to do my last stitch. And then put the marker in the last stitch that we did as usual. Round 11, we're going to single crochet the next 6 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're going to do that 6 times so that we have 42 stitches at the end of the round. So we'll do the 6 single crochet first. So count and make sure you got 6. And then to do an invisible decrease, pick up the front loop of the next stitch, so the loop that's closest to you, and then pick up the front loop of the stitch next to that. So you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. So you can pull through one and then the next one in stages if it makes it easier. Yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. And now we've got those back loops remaining, and we've got this diagonal piece here, so we don't want to go into that. We want to go under the V for the next stitch. So then we do the 6 single crochet again, and I'll show you that invisible decrease one more time. So the invisible decreases are not completely invisible, there is a difference, and that helps when you need to identify them so you can count how many stitches you got between them. So pick up the first front loop, then the second front loop, yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops. So you can do it in one smooth motion like that. Yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. So then we just repeat that until the end. So I'll just speed this up just to show you. So we take out the marker when we've got 2 stitches remaining, because we're going to do the last invisible decrease. So you can pause the video and meet me back when you've done that round. So the marker goes back in. Round 12, we're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches, then we're going to do an invisible decrease, and we're going to do that 6 times, and we'll have 36 stitches at the end of the round. So I'm just going to show you the first set, and then you can pause the video and meet me back. So we're not going to fasten off at this point because we're going to need to carry on with the decreasing later on once we've done all the other bits. So just put the stitch marker in the loop here and then tighten the slip knot so that it stays in place and we don't lose our place. So now we're going to make the petals. So we're going to pull up a loop of yellow in the remaining front loop of that last brown stitch, so the higher up one. So just fold it like that and pull it through. Now we're going to chain 9. So count the V's to count your chains. And then starting in the second stitch from the hook, so this one here, we're going to do a slip stitch. And we're going to work our way down the chain. So the next stitch we're going to do a single crochet. Then we're going to do a half double crochet. So wrap the yarn around the hook. Push the hook into the stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And that's a half double crochet. Then in the next stitch we're going to do a double crochet. So wrap the yarn around the hook. Push the hook into the stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook, and that's a double crochet. Now we're going to do a treble crochet. So wrap the yarn around the hook twice, push the hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops on the hook, and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. So that's a treble. Now we're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the last stitch. So this one will be a bit loose because it's where we pulled up the loop, but we're going to tie a knot later. So just pull to tighten it for now. Then we're going to do a slip stitch in the next 2 front loops, so the brown loops. So there's the first one, and then you can see that that secures that petal. So slip stitch in the next stitch. And then we're going to repeat that. So we're going to repeat the part in brackets. And we're going to do this for 24 petals. So by the time you get round to where you've started, you should have 24 petals. I'm going to show you this one more time. So slip stitch in the second stitch from the hook, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and a double crochet, half double crochet, and a single crochet in the last stitch, and then slip stitch in the next 2 front loops. So the first slip stitch secures that petal, and then the second slip stitch is the start of the next petal. So I'm just going to show you one more. So we start the slip stitch in the next stitch because I only did one just then. And I'm going to speed this up just to show you. And then slip stitch in the next 2 front loops. So you can push the petals outwards from the middle so that they keep their shape. So you can pause the video and meet me back when you get close to the end. Okay, so I've got, I think, 23 petals here, so I've got one more to do. I'm just going to count them. So I'm going to slip stitch in the next 2 front loops. And then I'm going to do my last petal. So I'm just going to speed it up just to show you. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch. And that's it, finished, because we don't have another one to slip stitch in, so just finish with 1 slip stitch. Cut the yarn, leaving a tail about this long, and fasten off. And then flatten them out and push them out from the widest point from the back so that they hold their shape. And now you can take that short tail from the start and thread it onto your needle and find a loop nearby, go through it but not all the way, so leave a loop of yellow, and go through the loop from behind and pull tight to make a knot, and then weave that to the inside. And then we're going to weave that other tail in as well. Just go through near where it comes out of and tuck it inside. So now we're going to make the sunglasses. So we're going to start with the middle bit in black. So I've left the instructions on the screen for rounds 1 and 2. Don't fasten off and meet me back when you've done those 2 rounds. Okay, so round 3, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch, and we're going to do that 3 times so that we have 15 stitches at the end of the round. And then when we get to the end, as we finish the last single crochet of that last increase, we're going to change to white. So again, you can pause the video anytime you need to. I'm just going to show you this round. And I know that black is the hardest to work with because you can't see very well, especially on camera. So this is the first eye of the sunglasses, and then the other eye will be made in exactly the same way. So we're on the last set now. So take out the marker and do your last increase. So the first single crochet, and then begin the second one. So pull up a loop and don't finish it in black. So take the white and fold it like that and pull that through the 2 loops on the hook. And that finishes the single crochet in black, and we've now changed to white. So the next stitches will be in white. So now we're going to do the outer edge of the sunglasses. So we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So count and make sure you got 6 after the slip stitch. And then we're going to half double crochet in the next stitch. And we're going to do a double crochet in that same stitch. So the same stitch that's got the half double crochet in it. And then we're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to do a half double crochet in the same stitch. So it's like we're doing the reverse of what we've just done, so that we have the triangle bit at the corner. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And then we're going to slip stitch in the first stitch, so the other slip stitch. And then we're going to fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing. So about this long. And then cut the black yarn and tie the short white and black tails together with a double knot. And then make the second eye in exactly the same way. So we're going to trim the tails so that they are short enough so that they don't stick out at the sides of the eye. Okay, so once you've made both sides of the sunglasses, we're going to make the middle piece of the sunglasses now in white. So make a slip knot. and then chain 5, and starting in the 3rd stitch from the hook, so this one here, single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So this is just a short piece to go in the middle and join the 2 sides of the sunglasses together. So you can pull on the slip knot tail just to tighten that so there's no gap. And then fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. And then we're going to weave the short tail through the back of the stitches. So make sure you're looking at the wrong side of the stitches and just weave through to the end like that. And then cut the yarn close to the edge of the work. And now we're going to position all the pieces where we want them. And we're going to sew it on. So we're going to sew the middle piece to the eye piece. So just go through underneath both loops of the stitch next to where we fastened off, and then go through a loop on the end point of the middle bit, and then back through the eye piece. And then we want that through, and then we want that on the other side, so just go through again to the back. And then we're going to weave that through to the other side. And just make sure you go up towards the corner, and then we're going to sew through the other eye piece in the same way. Okay, and then back through the middle of that V to just get to the back. And then we're going to find a loop nearby, go through it but not all the way. Go through the loop from behind and pull tight to make a knot. And that just fastens off. So we're going to get our pins and position it where we want it. So one through the middle and then one through each eye. And this is going to help with sewing so that it doesn't move around. So we're going to use the tail from the eye here. So just make sure all those bits are tucked in. And we're going to go through to the back, through the black loop here. And we're only going to sew the black loops down. We're not going to sew the white edge down. So now we're going to go through a loop on the surface of the brown stitches. So just keep lifting up and finding the closest loop to where you need it to be. And then back through the black loop on the edge. and another brown loop. So I'm just going to show you how to sew on one eye and also the middle piece, and then you can do the other eye. Okay, so I've just skipped ahead and gone to the end bit, and now I'm going to find a loop to fasten off on in the same way as we did before. And then we're going to weave that through to the inside. And trim that tail so it's a bit shorter and tuck it inside. And then sew the other eye on with that tail from the eye. And we're going to use the tail from the middle piece to sew the middle piece on. So we're only going to sew the middle stitches, so in a line. We're not going to sew the outer edges down. So just go through the white loops on the back and then pick up the brown loops and go through. Probably only need about 3 stitches here. Just make sure it stays straight. And then weave through to the back and find a loop on the back to fasten off in the same way. And then you can trim that tail a bit so it's not quite as long and tuck it inside. So now we're going to make the mouth with this pink embroidery thread. So cut a length about this long. I don't tend to measure my lengths, I just judge it really. So thread that onto our needle. And we're going to find a loop on the back near where we want to go through. And we're going to not pull through all the way and just tie a knot to secure it. So tie a double knot. And then we're going to go through to the front. And find the point where you want the corner of the mouth to start. And then go through a middle point like that. So it's just going to be 2 lines in a wide V shape. So come out on the other side. And then go back through the point where you came out of, the middle point. And then we're going to find a loop on the back and fasten off in the same way. And then trim that so it's not quite as long. And now the face is finished. So you might need to just reshape your petals because as we work they might get a bit ruffled up. Okay, so now we're going to make the wire frame. So I didn't cut the wire to a certain length because I didn't know exactly how long I needed it to be. So I just unwound it from the shape that it was in when I got it. So we're going to use the middle piece of the flower head as a guide and make a circle. So we want to use the outer edge because this is going to be pushed inside, and then wrap it around to secure it. Use your pliers just to do the end bit. And then we're going to fold it into the middle point, so about 1 inch, so that it looks like this. So this was actually a bit hard to film because I had a long bit of wire which kept moving around. So apologies that I didn't film that bending bit, but that's what it should look like. Okay, so you're going to want to put it in to test, see that it fits. Now we want to measure from the first bend that we made and measure 25 centimeters, and then we're going to make a second bend. So just like that. And then we're going to stand it up and make another circle, which is the same size as the outer edge of the pot. So you want to keep that bend going through the middle point of the circle. So to begin with, I'm just estimating it, and then I'm going to get the pot and put it up against it. Okay, so that's roughly right. We just have to make it into more of a circle. So put it inside and make sure that it fits. And then we're going to cut the wire. Using the wire cutters bit, so leaving a longer bit so that we can wrap it around like we did with the other piece. So we're going to wind it around to secure it. I'm just double checking the size. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a second layer. So we're going to wind a length of the wire all around the one that we've just done, so that we want it to be sturdy enough so that it doesn't bend. So again, I didn't cut the wire for this. I just took it off the roll and threaded it through. So you can take that out for now. So we want to temporarily straighten that bend out, and on the other end as well. So it should look like this at this point. And then we're going to take the wire and wrap it around this point here to secure it. Now, again, this bit was very hard to film because of how big the wire is. All I've done is just wound it around like this along the whole length. So now we're going to put the bends back in. So fold it at a right angle and then bend it into the middle like that. And that is the base that goes in the pot. And then the other end, we're going to bend that into the middle like this, so that it looks like this. So I'm going to stand it up to show you. So it should look like that. Okay, so now we're going to put it in the flower head. So make sure that the face is the right way up. So it should be a snug fit. And then you can fold that bend upwards because it's going to make it easier when we carry on crocheting so that it doesn't get in the way. So this is what it should look like so far. So now we're going to carry on decreasing on the green part. So put the marker in the last stitch that you did. And we're going to be crocheting around the wire for the stem. So round 13, we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease, and we're going to do that 6 times so that we have 30 stitches at the end of the round. So it does make it more fiddly crocheting when you've got the wire, but you just have to try and pretend that it's not there. So I'm just going to show you the first 2 sets, and then you can pause the video and meet me back when you've done that round. So round 14, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, then we're going to do an invisible decrease. We'll do that 6 times, and we'll have 24 stitches at the end of the round. So now we're going to put a small amount of stuffing in the head. So not much at all because it won't really fit very much in it. And we don't want it to get caught in the stitches as we continue crocheting. So I'm just taking a little bit out there and adjusting it. Round 15, we're going to single crochet the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. We'll do that 6 times and we'll have 18 stitches at the end of the round. Round 16, we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to do an invisible decrease. We'll do that 6 times and we'll have 12 stitches at the end of the round. Round 17, so this is the last round, we're going to do an invisible decrease 6 times so that we just have 6 stitches remaining. So this is going to be the most fiddly round because of the wire. So I'm going to show you the whole round, but I'm just going to speed it up. So take the marker out when you've got 2 stitches and do the last invisible decrease. So you can count and make sure you've got 6, and then marker goes back in, and we're going to continue with the stem, and we're going to crochet around the wire. So it's going to be approximately 43 rounds, so rounds 18 to 60, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch, just maintaining 6 stitches all the way down. And you can adjust the number of rounds if needed, so add more or take some away, because we want the end of the green part to end where the soil is going to come out of and then sit in the pot. So we can judge that closer to the end. So it is more fiddly doing it around the wire, but there is still enough room to do it because there's a little bit of a gap. So you can pause the video and meet me back when you've done those rounds. Okay, so I've done these rounds. I added a couple more for mine, but yours might not be the same, just depends on your wire frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to change to brown and then crochet outwards to make the soil. So what you can do is you can put it in the pot now and check that the green is in line with the 3rd round down from the top of the pot. And then if needed, you can add or take away rounds of green. Okay, so we're going to do one more green single crochet, and then as we finish that, we're going to change to brown. Okay, so now the stitches will be in brown. So round 1, we're going to be working in the front loops only, and we're going to do increase in every stitch so that we have 12 stitches. So the front loop is the one that's closest to you, and the reason we're working in the front loops is because we want it to go outwards instead of continuing to go down. And then you can tie those short tails together in a double knot. So I'm just going to show you all of this round, but you can pause the video and meet me back. So the last stitch, the last increase, and then you can see that that goes outwards now. So all the following rounds are going to be through both loops again. So put the marker in, and we're going to be increasing out in multiples of 6, exactly like we did before. And we're going to increase out to the width of the pot, which is 54 stitches. So I'm just going to show you the beginning of the next round, and then I'm going to leave the instructions on the screen. So the next round would be single crochet in the next stitch, and then increase in the next stitch, and do that 6 times for 18 stitches. Okay, so I've done all those rounds, and you can see this is what it looks like now. and I'm going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch just to round it off. And then we're going to fasten off, leaving a long tail, so one that's long enough to sew at the edge of the soil to the pot. So again, I didn't measure this, but roughly about this long. It's maybe, I think it was about 90 centimeters long, but it ended up being a little bit too long for me, but roughly that anyway. It's always better to have too long than not enough. Okay, so now we put it in the pot like this, and we're going to lift it up and we're going to pour our plastic pellets in to weigh it down. So just make sure that it sits in there nicely. And then also now you can bend the wire down like that on the flower head so that it's the right way. And you can fold your petals out because, again, as they get ruffled up when we're working, so lift it up and then open the bag and pour it in carefully so that they don't go everywhere, because it'd be a bit of a mess to clean up if they did. So we're going to fill this as much as possible, so up to the top of the soil. So just pour in a bit and then we're going to even it out, shake it, make sure it's distributed properly. So that it's not all on one side. And then you can add some more if needed. And then put the soil back down and just check that it's not overfilled or anything. So we're going to sew it on the third round down from the top of the pot. And we're going to pick up loops from the back of those stitches. So the third round down, line it up to the closest one to where the brown one ends. Pull all the way through and then go through both loops of each stitch on the soil. And we're just going to do this all the way around. And then when we get to the bit near where we've finished the round on the pot, you're just going to keep going down 3 rounds from the top, because obviously it's a continuous spiral, so it will then become 2 rounds down from the top. So we just want to make sure that at every point it counts down to the third round down, just so it's even. So then we would jump up a bit to make sure that it's 3 rounds down. So you can pause the video and meet me back. I'm going to skip ahead to when we fasten off. Okay, so I've got one more brown stitch, or maybe 2. And we're going to fasten off in the same way that we did for all the other times. So we're going to find an orange loop, go through it, don't pull through all the way, leave a loop and go through the loop from behind and pull tight to make a knot. And then we're going to weave the tail underneath the soil. And then cut the tail close to the end of the work. And then you can use the end of your needle to push that in and hide it. So that's what it looks like at this stage. Now we're going to make the leaves. So we're going to make a slip knot. And both leaves are made exactly the same way. And they're made in rows. So row 1, we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to single crochet in the second stitch from the hook, so that we just have one single crochet. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. So the chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, it's just our turning chain. So now we're looking at the back of the stitches, or the wrong side of the stitches, and we're going to do an increase in that stitch there, so that we've got 2 stitches at the end of the row. Row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do an increase twice. So increase in the first stitch, and then an increase in the second stitch. So these end stitches are a bit harder to get into because of the chain 1. And we'll have 4 stitches at the end of this row. Row 4, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. Then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to increase in the last stitch. So we'll have 6 stitches at the end of this row. Row 5, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to single crochet in every stitch, so just maintaining 6 stitches. So I've sped this bit up, but you can pause the video and meet me back. Row 6, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And then we're going to do an increase in the last stitch, and we'll have 8 stitches at the end of the row. Row 7, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch, so just maintaining 8 stitches. So I've sped this up again, but you can pause the video. Row 8, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do an increase in the first stitch. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And we're going to do an increase in the last stitch, and we'll have 10 stitches at the end of the row. Row 9, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch, just maintaining 10 stitches. Row 10, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to do an increase in the first stitch. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 8 stitches. And we're going to do an increase in the last stitch, and we'll have 12 stitches at the end of the row. Row 11, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch, just maintaining 12 stitches. Row 12, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to do a single crochet 2 together. So push the hook in the stitch, yarn over and pull through, push the hook in the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So that's a single crochet 2 together. Then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to repeat that, so the section in brackets, we're going to repeat it 4 times so that we have 8 stitches at the end of the row, because we've decreased by 4. Row 13, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet in every stitch, just maintaining 8 stitches. Row 14, we're going to chain 1 and turn, then we're going to do a single crochet 2 together, then single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then 1 more single crochet 2 together, and we'll have 6 stitches at the end of the row. Row 15, chain 1 and turn, we're going to do a single crochet 2 together, then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and single crochet 2 together, and we'll have 4 stitches at the end of the row. Row 16, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet 2 together twice so that we have 2 stitches, and this is the last row. So now we're going to fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing, about this long. And we're going to weave that short tail in to the back of the stitches. So we're going to go along the edge first and get to a point where there's a row where you've got enough stitches to go horizontally. And then go back down to the row below it and weave through. And one more, just so it doesn't come out. And cut the yarn close to the edge of the work. And then make the other leaf the same. So I've left the instructions on the screen, so you can pause the video and meet me back when you've done it. So just to let you know, there's 2 screens of instructions here. Okay, so now we're going to make the guitar in red. So we're going to make a magic ring, leaving a long tail at the start of it for sewing later on. So just like this. And then I'm going to leave the instructions on the screen for the first part of it, where it's just the increasing. And then you can meet me back when you've done that. Okay, so I've done those rounds. I've got up to 30 stitches and I'm counting my rounds there. Round 6, we're going to chain 7. So count your chains, make sure you've got 7. And we're going to start in the second stitch from the hook. So this one here. We're going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches on the main piece. So here's the next one. Then we're going to chain 7 again. And starting in the second stitch from the hook, we're going to do a slip stitch in the next 6 stitches. So push the hook in, yarn over, pull through, and pull that first loop through the second loop on the hook. And that's a slip stitch. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 26 stitches on the main part. So this is all the way up to and including the stitch marker. So I've skipped ahead and I'm at the point where I'm almost at the stitch marker. So take it out and do your last single crochet. So now we're going to work up the other side of the chain with these remaining loops, and we're going to skip the first loop. So we want to count 6 loops and the last one is right at the end. So this is the one that we're skipping and we're going to work in this one here. So we're going to slip stitch in these next 6 loops. Now we're going to slip stitch in the next 6 stitches, so through both loops, just normal stitches now. Then slip stitch in the next 4 stitches on the main part. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 6 loops on the other side of the chain. So count 6 to find where they are. So the first one is here, right at the bottom this time. So we do single crochet instead of slip stitch this time. Now we're going to fasten off. Just leave a short tail to weave it in. And then we're going to weave that into the back of the stitches, like this. And then cut the yarn. Now we're going to make the white part. So we're going to make a slip knot and then we're going to chain 25. So make sure you count your chains. And then starting in the second stitch from the hook, we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 22 stitches, so all along the rest of the chain. So I'm just going to show you a little bit and then you can pause the video and meet me back. Okay, so I've done all those stitches now. Fasten off, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. And then weave that short tail into the back of the stitches. So on the wrong side of the work. And cut the yarn. Now place that on top in the middle. We want the end to be 3 rounds in from the edge of the red bit. And we're going to thread it onto our needle and sew it on. So then just sew the end on by picking up the red loops and going through the loops at the end of the white piece. And then we're going to sew using the back loops of the stitches in a straight line. So we're not going to sew the outer edges. So pick up white loops and then pick up the red loops going in a straight line over the first round. And we're just going to sew up to the edge in between those 2 arms. And then weave through to the back. and fasten off around a red loop. And then you can weave the tail through the back of the stitches. And cut the yarn. So now we're going to sew the leaves on. So have them roughly halfway up, so about here. And it helps to get pins, to just pin them on. You can use one going through both of them. And then we're going to pick up loops from the surface of the stitches on the stem. And then we're going to go through the front loop only of those last 2 stitches. And you can take the pin out at this point. And then we're going to go around to the back side of it. And we're going to go through those remaining loops, so the back loops. And then you can fasten off in the usual way. And then sew the other leaf on in exactly the same way right next to it on the other side. And weave the tail through the stem and cut the yarn and use the end of your needle to push it in and hide it. Now we're going to sew the guitar on, so thread the tail onto your needle and we're going to sew it to the stem right in the middle there. So pick up loops, pull through and then find a loop nearby on the guitar. And do this for a few stitches just to make it secure. And then fasten off in the usual way. And weave the tail through the stem. And then cut the yarn and hide the end. So now we're going to cut a length of white, approximately that long. And we're going to sew that white bit of the guitar to the leaf. So we're going to go through a red loop and tie a knot to secure it. And then we're going to weave through the back of the stitches on the white part. And we're going to come out close to the end, so at the point where we want it to be attached to the leaf. So almost at the end. And then we're going to pick up a loop on the leaf and just do a couple of stitches there to secure it. Fasten off. And I weaved this through to the back and you can see some of the white on the back. So if that bothers you, then you can try and weave it through in a straight line on the underneath of the white part. But it didn't really bother me too much. So I just did what was easier. And then cut the yarn and try and push that end in a bit. And now we're going to weave that short tail in. So weave that through the stem, cut the yarn and hide the end. And there we have it, our rockstar sunflower is finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd love to see a photo of your sunflower. You can share it with me by tagging me on Instagram at Laura_Wilson01. I also have an Etsy shop where I design and sell crochet patterns. I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested in that. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.